Welcome to the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts. This is June 4th, 2018 meeting. It's 9 a.m. and I'm hereby calling this meeting to order. First item in the agenda is a pledge of allegiance. Will everybody please rise? Supervisor McLeod, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You kept up. All right, that's probably the smoothest part of the meeting. All right, first item on the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and a decision at a future date. Is there any, normally we would ask you to fill in a speaker form, and there's one here, but it's for a specific item in the agenda, a rezoning case. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address the board on an item that is not in the agenda? If not, I'll leave this open just in case somebody comes up a little later. So you always get an opportunity to address the board on some issue that may not be apparent to you now. All right, the next item in the agenda is presentations, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment of the agenda, the board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. No legal actions will be taken. Is there any board member that has an appointment that they want to make or anything? If not, then we'll move on to the presentation of the county line, which is a Yuma County government channel.
Yuma County Emergency Management trains for many scenarios, recently for an emergency that happens in another city. Public Works opens up to allow you to see how we keep things running smooth in Yuma County. And a graduation for Aztec High, young people who are truly treasure hunters. These stories and more, this is your County Line. We often talk about how our Emergency Management Office prepares for all types of emergencies and disasters. This is all to help you if the unthinkable happens. This means thinking of every possible scenario, even those emergencies that happen in other areas but impact our community. Recently, the state of Arizona and Yuma County Emergency Management Office activated the Yuma County Emergency Management Center.
It's a great time to get all our counterparts here working together in the EOC, mobilizing it. So in case there is a major disaster or something happens in Yuma County, everybody is working together and we know exactly what needs to get done.
But the actual drill focused on a major earthquake striking Southern California and the resulting evacuation of tens of thousands of people evacuating to Yuma County. A mass evacuation of Southern California would likely put a strain on services in Yuma County, potentially causing an emergency here.
We were able to do an exercise declaration, which is very important to the county in order to obtain services and resources and to recoup in the recovery process of funds that would be expended at the taxpayers' cost to respond to disasters such as this.
16 county departments and 9 outside agencies participated in our Emergency Operations Center. To find out more about our Emergency Management Office, just find them on the county's website, yumacountyaz.gov. They're under the Government tab. Ever wonder how streets stay paved and streetlights remain in sync? Members of the public got a first-hand look recently when our Public Works Department held an open house. Staff were on hand to answer questions and give tours of the Public Works facility off Avenue 5E. It also gave them the chance to give some show and tell about some of the equipment that's used to keep Yuma County's infrastructure in working order. There's a lot you can learn about the Yuma County Public Works Department. Just visit yumacountyaz.gov and find Public Works under the Government tab. It's an exciting time of year for many young people as schools let out and graduation ceremonies are underway. It's no different with your county government, as our own Aztec High School holds its graduation. For 22 years, our Juvenile Justice Center has been holding a graduation for their Kids at Hope, and this year a total of 41 students have walked the line. Most recently, 22 students received diplomas.
This is a reflection, the fact that Bobby Guzman was Employee of the Year for the Superior Court in Yuma County. I think he said it perfectly. He said, I'm just a representative of the staff at Aztec and the juvenile court, because it takes an entire team to get these students through, to get them the assistance they need.
Aztec was designed as an alternative school in 2003. Maybe viewed by some as a last chance, the young people crossing the line on graduation day in many cases are miracles. The majority of young people at Aztec are living in a single-parent environment, and some are living on their own, so the odds are not in their favor to get a diploma. Aztec High School has come a long way. They work closely with the Yuma County Juvenile Courts and the Yuma Union High School District to keep their standards high. With just under 80 employees, consisting of attorneys, paralegals, investigators, advocates, and support staff, the County Attorney's Office is a hotbed of activity. And as the Chief Legal Officer in the County Attorney himself has a lot to keep track of. Today, we take a moment to focus on this office and all that it does for the criminal justice system in Yuma County.
The mission of the County Attorney's Office is to hold those accountable who commit crimes in Yuma County. We're also here to provide legal services for the county elected officials and departments, and we also have a victim services division. A lot of people aren't aware that the Yuma County Attorney also represents the county in the civil arena, and part of our mission statement, as stated, is to provide skill and efficient legal representation to the county, its officers, and the political subdivisions that represent the citizens of Yuma County. Another big division that most people are familiar with when it comes to the county attorney is the criminal division. And we like to think of the criminal division, the role of the criminal division, as one of the most important aspects of what we do. It certainly takes up a vast majority of the work that's done in this office. It's important to note that the role of the prosecutor and that the standards of prosecutors are held to are much higher than that as imposed on other attorneys, because of this unique function that he or she performs when representing the interest and in exercising the sovereign powers of the state. And lastly is the division of the victim services. The role of the victim services is really just based on a strong commitment to the welfare of victims and their families as they recover from the effects of crime and proceed through the criminal justice system. Crime victims are entitled to the continuum of care based upon fairness, respect, and dignity, as well as to be informed, present, and heard in their quest to achieve justice. It is to this end that victim services serves them. We like to think that we're able to run as efficient as possible. The Board of Supervisors is cognizant of the fact that we do have certain needs and resources, and we work hand in hand with them on the administrative aspect to make sure that we have the necessary resources to do the job that statutorily we're required to do.
You can learn more about the Yuma County Attorney's Office by visiting yumacountyaz.gov. You'll find them under the Government tab.
Hi, my name is Trisha and this is your Health Watch. Summer is here, and what better way to cool off than in the water? Pools, rivers, and lakes are all popular choices here in Yuma. However, they can also be very dangerous if we're not careful. Here are some tips to make sure you stay safe while having fun in the sun. The letter A stands for Active Adult Supervision. Always keep constant visual supervision for all children and be within arm's reach for infants and toddlers. Designate a water watcher who is in charge of watching the children while in or near water. Never leave your child alone in or around water. Next up is the letter B, which stands for barriers. Make sure the pool is separated from other play areas of the home by having the pool surrounded by a 4-sided fence, a self-closing, self-latching gate, and door alarms on any door that opens to a body of water. The final letter, the letter C, stands for classes. CPR and first aid classes, swimming lessons, and water safety classes will make sure everyone knows what to do in an emergency and increase the chances of survival. Congratulations, you now know your ABCs of water safety. For more information on water safety for open water, please visit www.safekids.org or contact the Health District's Ryan Butcher at 928-317-4631. This is all for now. Until next time, stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we head out, some important reminders for you about the election season coming this fall. The fall primary election seems far away. August 28th is when the polls will open, but you don't want to wait to register. Voter registration will close on Monday, July 30th. The last day to request an early ballot will be August 17th. If you choose to cast your ballot at the polls, remember Yuma County will use vote centers for the election. There will be a total of 9 vote centers open. 2 of them will be mega vote centers, which are designed to handle larger crowds. Stay tuned to your county line. We'll be bringing you updates on the election season heading this way. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this county line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
All right. That almost lured me to sleep. Well, okay, no, I'm just kidding. A very exciting presentation. All right. The next item in the agenda is an update by Jeff Spo, Southwest Division Manager or Arizona Public Service regarding efforts to maintain reliability in the upcoming storm season. Jeff, are you just making efforts to be ready, or are you ready?
We are ready. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, supervisors, staff. Wanted to take a brief opportunity to kind of walk you through some of the efforts that are complete, to your point, Mr. Chairman, relative to summer preparedness. A little bit different than, if you will, monsoon preparedness. Some crossover, but most of this ties to generation and transmission planning. So I provided a packet ahead of time, so you can grab that and follow along. I'll start with slide 3. And there's some
Where's Charles Molina and Joe Gillespie and Anna Shaw?
we actually been circulating around doing all those. Anna is here.
And, oh, there she is.
Charles and Joe are out in the field today, so
Making sure that the
that's
preparations
right.
are done.
Keeping things going. So slide deck 3, I won't go through all the numbers there, but some that I think may resonate with you. So you'll see on the picture there on the right-hand side, we have in blue is our service territory. So it gives you some idea of our touch points and our impact relative to the state, 11 out of 15 counties. Again, some overwhelming numbers relative to line miles, customers, poles and such. But the last bullet point, 9,000 megawatts of nameplate capacity. And that means so our name is actually on the generation facility. We may not own all the generation that comes from that, but we actually do own the facility. Relative to what we own is 6,000 megawatts. That is ours, readily available. And to give you a little bit perspective on that, our anticipated load on the system, which would include everything in blue today, is about a little over 5,900 megawatts. And Yuma's anticipated load today is a little over 300, so you guys get about 5% of that. And that'll tie back in, a guaranteed 5%, if you will. Tie back in on the next slide, if you will, if you go to slide 4. Again, one of the big things I want to bring your attention to here, a project that finished up a little over 3 years ago, and that is, if you look, there's a double line that kind of comes from the northern boundary of the state, zigzags through Phoenix, and then ultimately ends there in Yuma. And that wasn't always a double backbone, if you will. We only had one 500,000 volt line that came in North Hill up until about 3 years ago when we installed the second one. And so That's a significant amount of redundancy. That line comes directly out of Italian and Palo Verde, and so some good solid generation. The real focus of this slide that I wanted to touch on is the fact of the coordination that we do ahead of time relative to hedging some of that transmission. You saw we had 6,000 megawatts of readily available that we own. I told you there's 5,900 load on the system. So obviously as we get into summer, the temperatures get higher and the load comes up. We don't own all that capacity. And so we have to coordinate ahead of time, buy some of that transmission, and so that we're ready for the generation when we get up closer to the 7,000 megawatt draws, which typically end of June, early July, when we have those max capacity on the system. So it's important that we do a lot of this planning ahead of time and have good cooperators within those markets so that we're able to reliably serve our customers. If you move on to slide 5, talk a little bit about some of the plan reliability activities. This is a little bit more on the distribution side of things. So the part of our system that serves our customers here in Yuma, and that's some line patrols and inspections that we're doing ahead of time, testing some of our supervisory switches and capacitors and regulators and substation transformers, all that pre-work that really starts, to be quite honest with you, after Thanksgiving, but the meat of it occurs in the beginning part of the year, again, to make sure those devices are able to support what we have in place. And then as a point of interest, you'll see that picture on the bottom right-hand corner there. Again, not something that we are as prone to here in the southwest part of the state as we are to the northern parts of the states, but this is a program we've adopted a little over 2 years ago called DSAP, which is Defensible Space Around Poles. Includes distribution and transmission, so it does have an impact on us. And anyway, we have crews out there that are clearing down to bare ground, 10 foot around all those equipment poles. And you can see that's a picture there of the Goodwin fire from last year. And that equipment pole did survive because that program was in place. So the fire was able to burn through there and not impact our facilities. So a very successful program that we've definitely put some effort behind and has proven to be successful. Slide 6 talks a little bit about, from a cooperator standpoint, how we coordinate, plan, and have templates laid out, if you will, how we're going to operate with our cooperating agencies, whether that's our partner utilities, our municipal emergency response folks, whether that be first responders or the emergency coordinator folks. So we are ready in the case of an event. That can be an event relative to a summer storm that blows through. It could be a black start event, a curtailment event. We have went through an exercise on Friday with a bunch of our curtailment cooperators where we created a couple scenarios and talked through some of those folks about if we were to, God forbid, lose one of the units at Palo Verde. You know, how are we going to curtail? Who's going to help us out? Where's the support going to come from? Have we hedged enough transmission? Those kind of exercises we go through on a regular basis, again, to make sure if we are faced with those events, we're prepared and coordinated. One of the most interesting pieces, I guess, if you will, and interactive pieces, and hopefully if you don't have this loaded on your smart device now, you will after this meeting, and that takes us to slide 9, 10, and 11, I guess it is the mobile app. And even though our call center is still available 24/7 and those reps are ready to help you in this scenario, we now have an app for your smart device that can help you, especially if you just migrated to a time of use or a demand plan. It can help you with your overall energy usage. You can look real time and see what you're using, where your demand is falling in that, and how you're managing your electricity. You can also report an outage on that, and if you, turn to the next slide there, you can kind of see what that outage map looks like on your phone. Again, still able to utilize our call center to call those outages in. You can still go on aps.com, but this interactive program relative to the outage map is very useful. And on a larger scale picture there on the next slide, which looks like this, it can shows you how you can hover over that outage, and it will give you how many customers are out, estimated time of restoration, the device that is giving us trouble, car hit pole, transformer failed, something along those lines. make sure that you are informed and have some idea of when that outage is going to be over and what caused it. So quite simply, put a lot of time, effort, preparation into having that diverse energy mix that we can handle all situations that we're faced with and are prepared for. We are proud that we provide safe, reliable electricity. We do it well, and we're confident as we go into, if you will, the 120 days when you guys rely on us the most. So appreciate the time. Any questions?
Just a comment. As
Yes.
much as I hate PowerPoint presentations, they make for a better presentation when we, send it out through our,
Fair
team,
enough.
through the. It's great, but is there a possibility you can get us that information, or that we can put it in some sort of a flash drive or something that we can, we can pass it on to the customers? I think this is great information, and it really is good for us to know it, but probably even better if the majority of residents in Yuma County can access that through the millions of viewers that we have in our channel. So, if you get a chance, let us
Appreciate
have
the
a copy.
feedback. We'll get you a
Right.
PowerPoint.
Anna can do
I
that.
can just mention, Mr. Chairman, having grown up here, there is a huge improvement in reliability. Whenever it rained when we were kids, you could bet the power was going out. And so, that's a much more rare occurrence nowadays, so thank you.
Yeah.
And having lived in San Luis most of my life, that was even worse. That was even worse. Whenever you loop that system going through Gaston and then coming around the other side, that was a vast improvement. I hate to admit that I was responsible once for a blackout, but let's just leave that story for some other time, where I think the statute of limitations is done with. So, but in the past, there used to be just one line going to San Luis, and every time that anybody did anything to any pole, or even the wind did something to the poles, we'd be out of power for hours and hours. So it really is a vast improvement over what we used to have. So we appreciate that.
Same here. I grew up on the avenues and lived on the avenues, and yes, it is a vast improvement. Yes.
Appreciate that.
Do you do any outreach out in the Dayton area with this kind of information? Just because I think they're on the tail end of the Phoenix line, but every time you get a storm out there, they always get nailed. And
We certainly can.
there's any way
Typically,
we
we'll
could-
do, Anna and the key accounts manager and I will circulate through there and have discussion. Not typically at this level, but we certainly can.
Yeah, just so we can get the information out there, especially on that app, so that when they do have power outages, they can get the word out quick.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good morning.
Right, thank you. Okay, that was, I think, one of the last items on the presentation list. We'll move on then to the consent calendar. The consent calendar, all the items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion, unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Anybody wants to remove any items or discuss them separately?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull number 6.
Number 6. All right, anybody else? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve consent calendars items 1 through, 17? With the exception of item number 6, or agenda item 6. Is there a motion to move? There. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve consent calendars items 1 through 17 with the exception of number 6. Any discussion on any of this? There's no discussion on the consent item. I forgot that. So anybody, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. We will then open up item number 6, which is the county administrator elections. Action to authorize the purchase of election tabulation hardware from election systems and software for an amount not to exceed $410,000 based on cooperative purchase language contained in Pinal County Elections and Equipment Maintenance, RFP PC-131219, awarded April the 30th of 2014, and authorize the county administrator to sign the purchase agreement subject to legal review. Yes? Ms.
Good morning,
Stallworth.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Paul Melcher is out today. Robin Stallworth-Poquette, Yuma County Recorder. We put together a really brief presentation to update you on this process as Yuma County Election Services has chosen to move forward with the purchase of tabulation, voting and tabulation equipment with ES&S. Dan Clark with ES&S is here with us today if we have any questions for him. And I'll run through just a couple quick slides so you know what the proposal is for purchase. Meeting with the board last year, the board communicated to Election Services and the County Recorder's Office their preference to purchase or acquire a hybrid solution for election tabulation in Yuma County. And we put something together real quick so you could, just to remind you what that looks like. This model that was chosen will consist of paper verified touchscreen machines that will allow voters to vote on a touchscreen machine, but will provide the voter a paper ballot that will then go into a tabulation piece of equipment called an optical scan. It's a DS200. Mega centers, which are your larger vote centers, the Civic Center and St. John Newman, will have approximately 10 to 15 of the touchscreen machines for voting, which will provide the voter the paper ballot. Those machines will be available for utilization. All of these pieces will be available for the primary 2018 election. This picture right here is your express vote touchscreen. It looks a little bit different than what's being utilized currently. The great thing about this is meeting the needs of the voter from a voter confidence perspective, ensuring that they will see a paper ballot come out of this machine and allow them to place it themselves into an optical scan to ensure that their choices were marked correctly. This photograph is a DS200 optical scan tabulator. It is the machine that each paper ballot will go into, will be tabulated, stored in a secure, with secure locking. There's multiple lock pieces on the equipment itself. And included in this model from the hybrid perspective, Election Services will maintain a DS400 or DS450 machine, which is a central count machine that will allow all of the early ballots and ballots coming into Election Services to be tabulated very quickly as elections processes early ballots. This will make a big difference from what we're currently doing, as the process is slowed down by the multiple optical scans that have to be used by the early board currently. Yuma County has opted to request purchase of 2 of these machines for use. They can run 2 of the central count machines constantly as early ballots are being processed, or one of them could be used as a backup in the event one is taken down for some reason. One thing I wanted to note is La Paz County has recently acquired this same system, a very similar model, and in the event of any issue or unexpected emergency, La Paz being close to Yuma County, we will be able to work with that county for any emergency needs. Ongoing support and maintenance will be provided by ES&S, including on-site support on the election day for the primary. And this is the picture of the DS450. I believe you've seen it run, but once the ballots go in, it's extremely quick. And Dan, would you come up here? He might be able to answer. I don't recall what the rate is, but it's
70 to 90 ballots per minute, and it has 3 outstacking bins, so it's designed to run a stack of ballots and sort at the same time. So it's like a thoroughbred. It's just designed to keep tabulating ballots. If it has a question about an overvote or an unclear ballot or a torn ballot, it's going to outstack it and keep processing ballots. So you're going from the processing 1 ballot at a time on multiple machines to putting a stack of ballots on there, and it's tabulating very fast.
And the Russians don't know anything about this.
Russians don't have any access to it.
All right.
The fantastic thing about this model and this solution is, as it pulls out the problematic ballots, it allows election staff and the early board to quickly retrieve those and resolve any issues, or put it back into the machine if there aren't any issues. Chairman Reyes, members of the board, this hybrid model will be extremely efficient for Yuma County, and it will allow everything to happen in such a faster pace from what our current situation is. As Dan mentioned, the ballots are placed 1 at a time in a scan machine for the last several elections. One thing I wanted to note is this timetable is very brief, but we expect delivery and implementation or installation in June, training in July, and training for poll workers in August. And I did want to note, in June, when the equipment is delivered, ES&S will be arranging for a pickup at that same time of all of our older equipment, and they will be recycling that older equipment, which Yuma County will be receiving a credit for.
Oh, good.
And safely disposing of it, so you don't have to worry about it ending up on eBay and somebody looking
The
at
Russians.
it.
The Russians.
And the
Or
Russians.
or the Chinese. Right, any questions?
I have a
Comments?
question.
Yeah.
The machine that counts them, yes. How many does it do at a time? I mean, how many do you stack in there at a time?
Usually do about a stack of about 100. It
Oh,
does,
good.
it does about 70 to 90 ballots a minute, depending on if it's an 11-inch or a 19-inch ballot.
Okay,
But you put about a stack of 100 on there.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, impressive. We saw it on, well, it was operating.
Yeah,
It's in-
we have this one, and then the bigger one is the 850. That one does about 300 ballots a minute. So this is just
Middle.
Perfect.
the middle size
Range.
for the perfect size for Yuma County.
And this is in the new building, right? The new facility that we carved out?
Updated?
Chairman Ray, Supervisor Pancrazy, that's correct. It will be placed into the expanded conference room on the first floor next to the Election Services office and utilized, I believe it will be utilized there or within the office itself once they make some decisions. And I want to note this processing through the DS450 will in minutes do what staff is currently doing or early board is currently doing in several hours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 6 as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and second. Did you get that, Chris? Yes. All right. To approve item number 6 as presented. Any discussion on the item? No discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to it. All right, the next item in the agenda is discussion and action items, and we will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. The first item is Public Works, discuss and provide direction on public road and street maintenance and direction on acceptance of additional roadways. We do have a dreaded PowerPoint presentation coming up.
We had some, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, some technical difficulties this morning, so I think this is a PDF version, so we'll get through it as best we can. But
Old school, old school.
it's only 83 slides, take an hour.
I would suggest that you reduce that to 13.
So this is a follow-up to a presentation that Roger Patterson and I gave back in April, covering maintenance of public roadways and what we can and can't spend money on. So I'll go through this, and it's two parts. I'll touch on our service request and the maintenance aspect, and then get back into the roadway portion. So after the presentation back in April, there was some discussion about how we address maintenance and some subdivisions out there, particularly with maintenance needs that maybe weren't getting addressed and maybe not in a timely manner. So I just wanted to briefly cover our process on how we do address maintenance needs once we're made aware of them. So our best source of information really is the public. We've got miles and miles and miles of roads out there, and generally our roads are inspected on a real detailed inspection on a 3-year basis, but a lot can happen in 3 years. So we can't be everywhere all the time. We don't always know what the issue is or where those issues are. So the feedback from the public is very important to us. We get phone calls, emails, and then our service request portal. That's a great way to reach out to us on our website. That is monitored 24/7, and we do have the ability to respond to especially safety-sensitive requests over the weekend, holidays, things like that, versus waiting till Monday morning and checking your voicemail when you get back in the office. So I would encourage people to use our website as much as they can. So our goal is to provide a response to a service request the following business day, and that applies to the portal through our website or phone call or email. Just to follow up with the individual making the request, let them know we've received it, kind of what our general plan is for addressing it, and some time frames if we have it. And then if we need additional information, we'll collect it from them at that point. And our goal is to address all these service requests within 7 days. We don't always hit that mark, but that is our goal. So at a high level, the request comes in, we make a determination whether or not it's within Public Works purview. If it is, we'll kick it to one of our division supervisors. If it's not, we'll address it to the appropriate department or outside agency. We do get a lot of calls for service that are actually on city streets or city roadways.
Keep going.
So quick numbers here, the service request feature went live on our website in 2016, and since then we've received almost 800 requests through that online portal. And our average closeout time is just under 5 days, about 4.5 days. So we're overall within that 7-day mark, and 91% of all the requests we've received have been closed out within that 7 days. Here's just a quick graph of the different categories through our service request portal. If you're filling one out, it gives you several different categories you can choose from. And then as we get them phone call or email, we try and categorize them similarly so we can track them. And here's a breakdown since it did go live in 2016. You can see a majority of our requests are for paved and gravel road maintenance needs. And those are pretty quick and easy to respond to, maintenance grading or patching potholes, that sort of thing. But we also have things like sidewalk repair and storm drain maintenance. Those are typically a little more involved and require more advanced planning to schedule a project to get those addressed. And then the next graph is going to be our completion times for those requests. And you can see we're generally under 6 days for everything except for the sidewalk repairs and street sweeping. On the sidewalk repairs, there's a few things that need to happen before we can get out and replace sidewalk there. First, we've got to call Blue Stake to make sure we're not going to have any conflicts with underground utilities. So that takes about 2 days. Then we got to schedule the demolition of the concrete, form it up, pour it, and then there's cure time before we can open it back up. So we're generally right around a week before we can get the sidewalk opened up again. And then this time of year, you'll see the sidewalk panels start buckling all over the place. We'll typically wait till we have 3 or 4 in an area so that we can order one big batch of concrete as opposed to doing smaller batches. On the street sweeping, kind of similar. We've only got a couple of street sweepers, so if the request for service is on a route that's due to be swept within the next few days, we typically won't redirect our street sweepers. We'll keep them on the route, but we'll get to it. We'll get it done. So I did mention on the earlier slide, we close out 91% of our requests within 7 days. And that looks pretty good, but keep in mind some requests don't require any work on our part. We get them in. If it's something for the city, we'll kick it to them, but once we've referred it, we typically close it out in our system, so those go in and look like very fast turnaround times. It helps with the average, but there really isn't a lot to do on our part. We do get a number of anonymous requests, and I understand people, for whatever reason, want to stay anonymous, but sometimes that can be frustrating. We'll get a request for something on County 14th. Well, it's a long road, we'd like to be able to follow up and get a cross street or any additional information we might need so that we can find the location quickly and get it addressed.
We also Supervisor McLeod calling in anonymously.
And if we have their contact information, we can close the feedback loop, let them know the disposition of their request, and make sure that we've addressed what it is they were concerned about versus, hopefully we've got the right location or we're seeing the problem that was reported. And I would also encourage people to report issues early. Let us know when there's a few small potholes as opposed to assuming we're aware of it but haven't gotten out there yet to fix it. The sooner we know about it, generally the quicker we can get out there and the quicker the repair, cheaper the repair, versus waiting until these things become craters out there and people get frustrated and then it becomes kind of a critical mass situation. Again, sidewalk repairs, I mentioned we have to call for Blue Stake there. Asphalt, we only get hot mix asphalt once a week on Wednesdays when the batch plants are running. For us to ask a plant to fire up just for the relatively small quantities we need for patching would become cost prohibitive. So we typically try and schedule our patching for middle of the week. So sometimes there's a little bit of a lag there. We do run into equipment issues occasionally. If a particular piece of machinery is down, street sweeper, for instance, those require a lot of maintenance. So those can add a few days to our response time. But if it is a safety sensitive request, those do go to the top of the list and we will respond to those 24/7. And jumping back to the county roadway maintenance portion, to follow up on the April presentation. Just a quick refresher, for us to program roadway and spend money on maintenance, it needs to be accepted into our system. And per statute, there's two options there. One is to have the board declare a roadway as county highway, and then the other is for the board to make that factual determination that a road was laid out, opened, and constructed at no cost to the county and per county standards. And then there is the exception for the pre-1990 roads that don't meet current county standards. But in any case, that determination does have to be made, and the board does need to accept those roads for maintenance in order for us to program public money. Then at that last presentation, there was some discussion of the roads in the Dateland area, particularly, I don't have a pointer, but particularly Glendale Road. The subdivision in the upper right quadrant there is Sun Country Acres, and the major east-west road on the south side is Ventura, and then a half mile north of that is Glendale. And just to give you an idea, there's more than 3,700 residential lots in the Dateland area. It's a lot of lots. Not a lot of homes on those lots, but there's a lot of lots and a lot of roads that have been dedicated as part of those plats or subdivisions out there. So Ventura on the south side of Glendale, on the south side of Sun Country Acres, that was paved between 64E and about 66E alignment on the east side of that subdivision back in 1990. And then just to give you a brief history or the current history, recent history of that exercise. In 1990, the county got a petition from the residents in the Sun Country Acres subdivision to maintain the public roadways out there. So that's a subdivision on the right. It's a mile by a mile, so there's a lot of miles of roads just within that one subdivision. At the November 5th, 1990 board meeting, the board did authorize the then Public Works Director to perform courtesy maintenance out there for the remainder of that fiscal year. And that courtesy maintenance was basically dry blading, and they used water when available, but they did not add any new material or anything to the road. And it was for that specific time period from November until June of the following calendar year. Then in 1997, the county was awarded a CDBG grant, just under $500,000 to pave Ventura. And that was again from 64E to the 66E alignment on the east side of the subdivision. And in 1997, the road was constructed and the board did establish that roadway as a county highway. And in 1999, the county did receive another request from the residents out there and the water company to pave Glendale Road and Catalina Road. Catalina is a north-south road that runs through the subdivision, and that's also the road that the water company is located on. And that was taken to the board in February 2000, and the board at that time voted not to pave those roads. What do we maintain? Here's a breakdown. We have about 1,400 miles of road in the county inventory, inventory, and that doesn't include county highways. This is just public and county rights of way, and we only maintain about 910 of those miles. So that leaves about 463 miles out there that we do not maintain. So there's quite a few miles of road out there across the county that are dedicated but not maintained. And then when it comes to subdivisions specifically, we do maintain 237 miles of subdivision roads, and that encompasses all but just about a mile of paved roads, so we do take care of almost all the paved subdivision roads out there. But there are 126 miles of subdivision roads that do not receive county maintenance. And that would encompass the dirt roads out in the Sun Country Acres subdivision as well. And this is in response to the chairman's question about bringing back some costs if we were to take on some additional roads for maintenance. If we were to fold those 126 miles of roads into our current maintenance program, our gravel road maintenance program, where we try and touch each road twice a year, we recap them on a 10-year cycle, reshape them annually. We're looking at about $810,000 to fold in those 126 miles. If you break that down per mile, that's about $6,400 per mile per year for additional roadway maintenance. I mentioned last time too that to do that, we'd also need to make a capital investment. We'd need to add some grader routes. Each grader route can handle about 40 miles of road comfortably. So for every additional 40 miles, we'd be looking to add a new route, and that would typically consist of a new grader, a water truck, and a roller. And there's an investment there of about $423,000 up front to get that grader route established. You know, when we talk about like Glendale Road, for example, we can grade that a couple times a year with existing staff and equipment, but there is a cost associated with it, obviously. And you know, with existing staff and equipment, the time we spend grading roads out there means probably something else has to come off the schedule or overtime or something like that to compensate. And kind of based on my experience in the review of the file for when the board did authorize maintenance out there, I'm not sure how happy the residents would be in the long run with, you know, us just blading that road a couple times a year with the soil conditions out there and the sheet flow drainage that happens. I think the washboards and the dust holes are going to be back within weeks of us blading those roads. It really needs good material on them. They need to be capped so that we can hold the roads. And based on our experience here through the gravel road maintenance program, that's about $40,000 per mile to cap those roads. We also want to take a look at the drainage in that area. There is a lot of sheet flow. We want to make sure if we were going to add new material, we wouldn't create any flooding problems or something that don't currently exist that we wouldn't exacerbate things.
All right.
And with that, I'll take any questions or direction you might have.
Oh, I'll ask a question. Is the 7-day average 7 calendar days or 7 business days?
7 calendar days. We try and close it out within a week.
Okay. All right. I heard some grumbling here about the flood control district. I heard that.
Yes, we were talking about it as far as maybe getting Dateland to where they could get some roads fixed.
I'm not sure.
So,
I think that the flood control
something to have
district.
to look at.
I guess your question would be, or your comment would be in reference to, could you use some flood control district for some of the activities?
That area, I know.
The drainage part,
Yeah.
where you.
Because that,
you
whenever
shape
it rains out there, it floods terribly in the Sun Country Acres area.
Yeah, there's a lot of sheet flow, and then the roads become rivers. I mean, they act as channels to move the water through.
They're almost unpassable for.
Well, I guess our first decision would be, are we going to start dealing with the 160 or 127, whatever, what was it, 160? 127 miles of roads that are county roads but have no maintenance right now. I guess that would be a question that needs an answer. I mean, do we want to get into that? And I heard your last comment about, wait, you know, is it going to be enough? Are we going to make it worse because we'll create the expectation of maintenance all the time? So we need, once we go down that road, you know, we're stuck with it. I mean, you know, I don't think it'd be a wise idea to go in there and just do a little bit of improvements and pull back and do very little maintenance, because I think the expectation of the residents in that area is going to be that there will be continued maintenance of those roads. And I think that decision that was made a long time ago, before I was here, about what roads to pave was made based upon funding. I mean, obviously and HERF hasn't been increasing. It's been sort of stagnant or decreasing. So,
right.
Okay. So what I guess my point is, if we're going to assign more money to that, then it's got to come from somewhere. Okay, and so if it's flood control or if it's something else, it does have to come from somewhere. But the first decision is, do we want to go ahead and start, looking at creating a maintenance plan for those that are not, for those roads that are not maintained currently? Is that basically one of the questions anyway?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. We have the Dateland area roads specifically. That was what came up at the last meeting, so I include some information on that. But right, historically, it appears, through my research and in discussions with Roger, that in the past, boards have not funded those kinds of activities.
Yeah, we sort of relied on the cities annexing those areas before they became really big problems.
That's always been the case.
Now you're stuck with it now. All right. Well, anyway.
Mr. Chair, it's always been about the HERF, but I think in the last couple of years, we've seen at least some of it returning. I mean, this next budget year, it'll be quite, we'll probably seen more than we have seen ever before coming back to counties and cities. So, I mean, for me, I would like to see at least part of that money that's coming back to invest in equipment, so that when we start tackling those roads, that we are prepared.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
I think I already know what you're going to say as a former legislator, but.
No,
okay.
I'm agreeing with Martine, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, I'm agreeing with Martine because it's one-time money.
In terms of using the money for
equipment,
as
yes.
opposed to using the money for continued.
Something that was going to continue, I agree.
I don't think we're getting additional money.
I don't either. I don't think.
You know,
we're getting
that's
additional
my
money.
problem.
We're getting the
And-
same money we did last
Yeah,
year.
and I think that what happens is it's the expectations that are created. I mean, it's a road. I'm going to use that term. It's a road that we always avoided going into. It's a situation where if you start, if you make a commitment, once you're in that, it's very difficult to pull back. Once you start providing some sort of maintenance, people expect that to be around. And when we don't have the funding, then we have to take from someplace to be able to cover that. Now, I'd say that, most of the time, I mean, in my time here on the board, we've been very careful about recurring costs because, the funding that we get it's basically legislative driven. And if the legislature has to balance the state budget, guess what? I mean, they balance it off the back of counties and, but we were left holding the bag in that respect. So, but I see the point where, look, you just can't simply say, we have a problem, we're not going to do anything about it. I mean, I don't think that's the way this board particularly looks at that. What I'd like to do is take a cautious approach and see if we can see how much we can handle year after year. In other words, if we have 127 miles, say that we make plans to bring in 30 at a time, another 30, and not try to do this in a single, large step, because I don't think we're designed that way to begin with. But the biggest thing with me would be that if we do go down that road, that we make a commitment to fund it appropriately, and then, whether it's equipment cost or whether it's, the actual cost, but that we can budget it in a way that at the end of 4 years, for example, or 3 years, we would have all the unpaved roads, all the ones that county roadways that we can maintain that aren't being maintained right now, into a system, into a rotation system. But I'd caution us to go right down there and say, okay, we're going to cover the 127 miles next year, or even part of it this year. I think that we need to deal with it.
I'm going to admit, I'm going to be a squeaky wheel, because I think most of the gravel roads are in my district when it comes to those.
Move the maintenance out of South County to East County.
There is no.
No, I'm just
South
saying,
County
there's
to
South
begin
County
with,
has it
so
too.
there's nothing to
But-
move.
But
No, but I think the question from staff is, okay, what's the direction that you guys want to go? And I think that needs to be clear, but I think it's clear enough for me that what we're saying right now is, look, that cannot continue without some sort of an answer from us. Okay, what are we going to do? Once you go down the road of finding out what your needs are, then the next question is, what are you going to do now that you know? Now you can't avoid the issue. Now, a decision needs to be made. Boards in the past made the decision not to. And I was part of some of those boards because of of what I just mentioned before. We're not, you know, we're not, we don't have the tools to fund a lot of this stuff on our own. In other words, cities can do a lot of stuff. The cities can pass taxes, city can levy property taxes, cities do a lot of stuff to make sure that they can fund some of these things. We, on the other hand, are sort of limited by statute into what we can do in terms of generating funds. And so to me, again, this is it's a simple decision. It's a matter of how we go about doing it. It's not whether we want to do it. It's just how we go about doing it.
Well,
and how do we pick.
I have a suggestion on, I don't know if this makes sense, but are there a few miles of what I would call primary roadways that aren't currently being maintained? That are your major corridor? In other words, I know we're not going to go through all of these small subdivision roads, and we're not going to be able to afford that. But are there a few miles that it would make a lot of sense to really look at?
Collector roads,
Chairman, Supervisor McLeod, I think so. We would have to put some criteria together, like Catalina, for instance, out in Sun Country Acres. That services the water company.
Put them in category.
And that is one of the
Major thoroughfares, yeah.
roads within that subdivision that there are quite a few homes on. So given that, there's also a school bus route through that subdivision. So there are roads that, would make sense to look at first in that regard. You could look at things like, the number of daily trips on those roads or traffic volumes, whether or not they service a utility company or a school, things like that we could take into consideration.
Yeah, I think so.
In other words, that would be the next step,
That would be
wouldn't it?
like the plan, right?
I have a question. Could they form an improvement district and do it?
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, anybody can.
Okay.
The problem is, the expectation that people have of what the government's gonna do for them is that we would go out there and especially those, I agree with Supervisor McLeod. I regret doing that every once in a while, but I do agree that what we need to start
You've
doing
never been
probably.
wrong when you did.
Yeah, I'm wrong now.
Whoa.
But I think that the next step would be to prioritize those roads and see, and then get an individual cost and see,
And that's, me and Josh have talked about that. We've identified, like I said, the ones where the bus routes are and stuff like that, where safety is a concern.
That would probably be the next step. I think the decision to go ahead and do something is already evident here on the board. It's a matter of deciding how much it's going to cost, which ones are, priority, and, having the supervisor from that district beg a little, maybe, negotiate.
Hey, whatever it takes.
No,
Whatever it takes.
I know the
I
feeling.
just want to know how we're going to pay for it.
That's right. But I mean, we need to know what it is that we're going to pay for and, how much it's going to be. I think you have identified the unimproved roads, the unmaintained roads, but now we need to identify which ones are the most urgent to deal with.
Mr. Chairman, that would be the direction I'm kind of looking for is what kind of criteria would you like to take into consideration? Or, I can come back with
It's
some
traffic, probably.
methodology,
Traffic
but-
counts,
Just the heaviest use, I think.
strategic
And
location.
With a,
We're not gonna pay
probably a
for it.
pretty big limitation. I mean, not 100 miles, maybe 10.
Maybe 12,
Maybe
15.
12, where it makes sense.
If you look at like the roads in the Dateland area, it's not real densely populated out there, but there are some important roads for people to get access to paved roads, to the school, to the water district, to the amenities they need. But you can't base,
Like
if
Lake
we just base
Martinez,
it
I
on
mean,
traffic volume, it may be a struggle to try and bring those kinds of roads in, but.
Well, we're gonna have to base it on some sort of strategic criteria that says that this is an important road for the area in general, as opposed to a specific one.
And
Collector Street.
If you can identify available funding, that also gives you a window that you're going to need to work within, right? So I think if you put all those criteria together that you just
We may
mentioned,
start making decisions to make some improvements
important
right away.
roadways, quote unquote, how you might define those, and what is the available funding, and then you got yourself a little box to work in.
Is that enough direction, or do you need anything more?
I think so. I can work on something and bring it back to you. My
Anything
last
else?
comment would be on the HERF side. Whatever maintenance dollars you give Public Works, that's also competing with CIP dollars that our engineering group is looking to use to address capacity needs and pavement reconstruction and things like that. So I think warrants a holistic look.
Yeah. Well, that's what we would expect the next time, a holistic look.
Well, and Josh, we just started a maintenance program.
Le entran
Didn't
100
exist,
sin pedir permiso.
a year ago or 2 years ago.
Correct.
Perhaps you could maybe widen by a couple of months the frequency, and then use that those savings to fund these additional roadways.
Yes,
Because they didn't have any maintenance, now they're getting it, so maybe we can just.
Let me allow the only supervisor that's asking permission to speak, Supervisor Porches. You've been trying to speak for the last 10 minutes, man.
Who's that?
Supervisor Porches asked to speak for a while. I said, hey, wait, let me allow it. Supervisor Porches, you have the floor for yourself for the next 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I want to ask Susan, or I actually want to see, I know our engineering department gets a lot of, uses HERF money too. I want to see the amount that goes to that department, not units, not hours. Give me the amount of money that goes from HERF. Because I think we need to start prioritizing and seeing where that money really goes. I know it is important, that department, but also we don't see a lot of new roads. We're not seeing much of that, so I'd rather see that money going into your department, either equipment or
materials or
whatever, so at least to.
But Mr. Chairman, we just took money from there to fund the maintenance program that didn't exist a year ago. That's where the money came from. It came from engineering. So we've already done that.
So that means that they don't need that much, so we can. That's
what happens. Better tell Roger next time, he better be around. This is a ruthless crowd here.
Stealing your kid's lunch money, he didn't die, so he paid.
People from the flood control district, I would suggest you come to this meeting.
Yeah.
You may not end up with any flood control.
Supervisor McLeod's correct. A lot of money did come from engineering to fund the chip seal program that we're doing in conjunction with the gravel road maintenance. They did use quite a bit of their dollars for that.
Almost $1 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're contracting that
They
out.
did
We already did that.
But it's good. I mean, knowing the number.
It doesn't hurt to look and see if we can get some more.
Yeah, flood control is.
Yeah, I like his thinking.
Flood control is an easy target. They're not here, so.
Until we have 100-year rain.
I know what you're talking about. Maybe some money from APS.
Remember, engineering
He's
is
not
going to be
looking.
putting in bike paths.
All right. Well, anyway, I think you got direction. I mean, it may be a little confusing direction, but you got some direction. You got some direction. So thank you for the presentation. It was glad to know how much we don't do. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
We'll be moving on to some subject that may be solvable. So we're going to go on to item number 2, which is for development services and engineering. It's a discussion and possible action to A, rescind the award of the assessor's parcel number 728-03029, action on the May 7, 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting, and B, in accordance with ARS 11-251, parenthesis 9 plus 48, conduct an action at 9 a.m. or as schedule permits of APN 728-03037, a county-owned excess parcel, and authorize the county engineer to execute the deed transferring the property to the highest bidder at or above minimum bid, or continue this item and authorize the engineer to return these items to the board when there is sufficient interest to conduct an auction on the balance of the excess parcels. Now, go ahead before we start with the first item.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, we're bringing this item back because apparently engineering is going to need more money, so we need to auction off some properties.
That's good.
We don't care. That's a different problem. It's a problem we don't have.
The more money we can get, the better, right?
No, you're bringing this problem because the last bidder bid the wrong property.
Yeah, but back on May 7th, 2018, the board awarded an auction of parcel 728-03-029. There was a miscommunication between our realtor and the bidder's realtor. as to which property they actually wanted to bid, and they actually bid on the wrong property. So what we're bringing back is to rescind that award and to open up the auction for the correct parcel, which they are here to bid on.
All right, so there's two items in the board. Oh, it's three actually. One of them is to actually continue this item, but I don't think we're, going to continue the item if we're ready to proceed. So, and we need all this money, so we're going to have to go ahead and, I will ask the board to first have a motion to rescind the award of the prior parcel, the one that was auctioned May 7, 2018.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been a motion and second. Is there any discussion on this item?
Just a question.
Go ahead.
Did they actually pay for the wrong property?
No,
Or was it discovered before
it
the
was never,
transaction?
the property never closed. They identified the mistake before closing on the property.
That's good.
Okay, so there's motion and second. There's been some minor discussion on the item. Anybody else? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. We're moving on to the second item. Let me read. You're ready, right? I'm going to read the instructions for any of the bidders if they're here. Okay? If you wish to make a bid, you must register and obtain a bidder card from Barbara Villaneda at the County Administration Receptionist Desk. Payment in full is expected as per terms of the sale. Deeds will be mailed to the address noted on the bidder registration form as time permits. And I will announce, I will announce the parcel number, which will be parcel 728-03-037. Make sure this is the right one. And I will request a minimum bid of $41,400. Okay? Now, we're going to go through a bidding process where you're going to be asked to hold your bidder card up and call out your bid amount. Okay? Do not damage or destroy the bidder cards in any way. Turn them over back to Barbara Villanueva. Leave them on the counter. Don't take them because you will be charged an enormous amount of money. We need money for repair and maintenance of roads, so you be careful, right? So, okay, I'm going to open up the bid process. I've already announced the parcel number, and I'm going to ask for a minimum bid of $41,400. Is there anyone here that wants to bid that amount? Bidder number one back there. All right, your bid is for $41,400. Right? Is there anybody else? I will take $41,500. No, nobody here. I'm going to do this again. There's a bid in the floor for $41,400. Anyone else? If not, it's going once, it's going twice. It is gone for $41,400 to bidder number one. This time, the proper property.
Is this the parcel with the two garages on it?
Okay, you go ahead, answer the question.
Chairman
It's
Reyes,
a little too late. It's already been sold.
No,
You
I'm
don't
just
care about the
wondering
number
which
of garage.
parcel it was, if it's one I'm thinking.
Yeah, both properties that were involved, this have that one shaped storage structure on it, and I think that was the confusion.
Okay.
So I'm bringing it back to the board. I'm going to need a motion to accept the bid for that amount.
Moved.
So there's a motion to accept the bid for $41,400 for parcel number 728-03037. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second to accept the bid. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 30,000 of that will go to the road maintenance project.
It should, I mean, we have an engineer for
I opened that one up. Item number 3. Thank you very much for all those people who patiently waited for this exciting bid process. Yuma County Administration approve of a letter of support template related to Yuma County legislative activities related to the air designation actions in the area of pollutant transport, ADAAPT Act. Susan?
Yes, Paul Melcher is unfortunately not feeling well today, so I'll present the item. Senator Flake has introduced a bill entitled Air Designation Actions in Areas of Pollutant Transport Act, which is to correct some of the ozone regulations that are currently impacting Yuma County as well as 71 other counties across the nation. So what we have got here is a letter that will be
if you approve it, be signed by the supervisor, by the chairman, and sent to those counties that we believe would be similar stakeholders who would encourage the passage of this Senate bill. It's going to be heard in the Senate committee, the Environment and Public Works Committee. Once it's heard in committee, if it gets out of committee, then it will be heard on the Senate floor. So we'd like to encourage those people who have a stake in ozone regulation relief to provide that information to their senators in order to encourage that the law be passed.
Is there any from legal staff, do we have any problem with encouraging people to support something? A legislative bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, no.
Okay, good. All right, well then, I'll leave it up to the board. I think it's a worthwhile cause. I think we've been fighting this ozone situation for a while, the pollutant bill. So this helps. I've read parts of it, and if it passes, it'll be helpful to us. Is there a motion, a second from the board to support this?
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
I'll second it.
And the motion will be that I, as chairman, can sign anything that I desire that supports the bill. And it's a support letter. It's a support letter.
Yes.
All right. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Now, item number 4, discussion in direction regarding compensation for fiscal year 2018-2019. As a method of opening this up, I'll let Susan get into this thorny subject, and we'll move on from there.
Thank you. Chairman, members of the board, on May 21st, the board discussed the idea of potentially having a pay-for-performance system going into the following fiscal year. And so the budget review team, which included myself, Jim Flory, our budget director, Gil Villegas, our CFO, Felicia Frausto, our human resources director, Lucia Gomez, our budget manager, and Paul Melcher, deputy county administrator. So we have met over the last couple of weeks identifying various options and scenarios. So we have focused now on 2 options that we'd like to bring to your attention. One of those would be continuing forward with just the 2% across the board pay increase, which has been funded in the recommended budget. And that would take place the first full pay period in July. This is similar to what we have done in the past. We do have a performance evaluation process that is required by all employees and all supervisors to complete annually. And so that would continue to operate, but we would not be tying specific pay increments to someone who needs improvement, meets expectations, or exceeds expectations. And then what we would do is staff already has a committee that has been working on performance plans to bring forward a future board consideration to apply pay for performance into the following fiscal year. Option 2 would be delaying the implementation of a pay increase until the first pay period in November. At that time, we would have all the directors complete performance evaluation forms for all their employees as they currently do. And those who meet expectations in their performance evaluation receive a 2% increase, and those who exceed expectations would receive a 3% increase. But we would limit it to no more than 12% of a department's employees being eligible to receive that 3% with an exceeds expectations. And that's based on our history of what's actually taken place in those performance evaluation processes for the last 2 years.
So you're concerned, you're addressing a concern that an agency department head would exceed in more than
for everyone, yes.
Yeah, for everyone.
So we want to make sure that our performance evaluation process is legitimate and accurate, and not encouraging people to inflate people's performance in order to give them more money, which is perfectly understandable, but we want to make sure that our performance evaluation system is working appropriately and not being used for that purpose. So we would recommend option 1, because that would give us staff the time to develop a well thought out pay for performance program, including input from directors and agency heads. And then you could give us feedback, and we may end up having a couple of iterations before you're happy with whatever we have come up with for the following fiscal year. That way we could also let all employees know and supervisors know that pay for performance will be coming up so that they can plan ahead and be prepared for that. So we want to make sure that the evaluation goals and objectives for each employee are clear and that they understand what it takes to meet expectations and what it takes to exceed expectations and what a pay for performance actually means so that everybody understands what we're doing. Now, this would only apply to the county side of the organization. The courts have an open pay plan and they don't have a pay for performance system. So they would move forward with the 2% that's in the budget. So this would only, whichever one you choose, option 1 or 2, would only apply to the county departments, not to the courts.
You know, okay.
So again, I mentioned that there was a performance evaluation committee, and that committee could be charged with this new pay for performance development process. They've currently been working at how do we improve our performance evaluation process, the format and criteria and the goals and objectives, and so that could be included. Their charge could include now a pay for performance element that they would participate in and bring forward. And if you have any questions, Felicia can talk more about that committee.
All right. This reminds me of a saying that goes along the lines of the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And Felicia's coming up and she's got a couple of crutches. You know, she's looking for, you know, mercy more than anything else, sympathy, you know, kind of thing. But
So
it's
we'd like
okay.
to get your direction on whether you want to
Fine.
go forward with option 1 or option 2.
All right. Look, I'm going to let the board, if any of the members of the board have any opinion on this before I, you know, give you mine, but is there anyone here? I mean, we were really.
Option 1.
Yeah. Option 1. Look, when I thought about this, I thought it was going to be a simpler process. I'm not really keen on delaying the salary increase till November because you're really not giving the full 2% anyway to anyone because you're starting so late. But I do feel that at some particular point in time, we do have to have the tools to reward people who exceed their work. It's just that I don't think we thought it through. I personally don't believe I thought it through. I didn't realize we weren't ready to do, you know, a pay for performance method. That we didn't have a real good method, a sensible, objective method. And I don't want the employees to think that the 2% isn't really going to be a 2%. So I'm a little concerned about that. I believe that we can still do something in the future, but I would be inclined also to take option number 1 as our first step-off point to get to that particular point. But I strongly believe we need to find a way to reward people who do, you know, to exceed their expectations. I just don't think that the time frames are going to work for us now. What do you think?
I concur. Option 1, I think right now is our best deal for this year. But we need to look at it too, that we can sustain it each year if you're going to do a pay for performance. Because if you don't have that every year, you skip a couple of years because the money's not there. And then you've got people that are trying to adjust to get their people pay hikes that they hadn't received in the last year or 2.
I think when we say a 2% pay increase, people say, well, I'm going to get a 2% pay increase. And I think we did that at some particular point, and I don't think, you know, it was very unclear and very difficult to do 1% and then divide the other 1%. It's really complex, and I don't think we have enough time to do that. I think that as a board, if we decide to go for a pay for performance situation, we sort of have to put together a package that says every employee gets this much, and then we set aside a certain amount to address the issue of people who exceed. That way, in reality, they'll be rewarded with something without taking it from somebody else.
I agree with that. And it should be objective, not subjective.
That's always the problem with you know, measuring performance, because it's such a subjective issue.
Well, like
there should be objectives that they
Measure.
meet. That
Oh, man, you know, Supervisor McLeod's been quiet too long. There's something coming up.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
No,
How about you, Martin?
like I said, this
Before
year,
I let Supervisor McLeod say anything, what do you think, Martin? As if he stopped saying.
What I mean, I'm good with 2%. You know, and I've always thought that, you know, employees they always deserve at least, you know, some kind of a percentage every year if it's possible. But I also you know, I don't want the people that are making a lot more money than the ones at a certain, certain scale, that below certain scale, and the ones above are always getting the same amount and the percentage, but it's a lot more.
Percentages are a lot more.
Well, when it comes to cash,
Mhm.
but I would like to see at least from a certain amount below that they start getting a little bit more.
I see. You want like a step situation?
Yeah, or
as opposed to a flat
Yeah.
percentage, you want
Well,
to be able to measure. But that's
Yeah, that's a good
way to do it.
idea.
I mean, that's something that
Yeah, we did
I
that.
think we need to start looking at the people that, get a 2% out every year, or when they get it, but it's only $600 or $700
That's a
a
lot.
year.
I get. Also, are you implying that 2% of $50,000 is different than 2% of $25,000?
Oh, yeah. It is, and especially if it's 2% every year.
Dollars. Yeah, in terms of dollars.
It is. But also, we talked about the pay grade scale, changing it. And I just want to make sure that if people, by doing that, if some employees are getting a raise because of that, then I don't think it's fair they're gonna get that other 2% too. I think we
Well, that was already
we
discussed.
match it to 2%, or
And then after that.
and then after that, but
After that, whatever the difference
yeah,
is, we
because
look at it.
it's
But
it'd be
that's not going to
unfair.
change, right? That's not going to change. We said that the 2% would be applied before the market adjustments would be applied, which is what you're saying right now, that you don't think it's fair to adjust it to market and then add 2% to it. But we discussed that earlier, and we said that's not going to happen. It's going to be 2% first, and if there is a difference between their market pay scale and their salary at the time after the 2%, then we'll deal with it then. Is that correct? Is that clear?
That's correct. That's what
correct.
he,
That's-
that's
Is
what we're doing.
that correct?
Yes.
So,
But what Supervisor Portis is talking about is the pay scale adjustment when we're moving from having the 2.5% in between steps to the 1% between steps.
Are
So you want to make sure that that's
complicated
not,
process?
that people aren't benefiting a large amount from that.
no,
So?
what I'm saying is that you're gonna change the pay grade scale. So are you just changing the grade, or that comes with money when you change that?
What I'd like to do is sit down with you to walk through it in detail, because for
Is this a simple
it's,
question?
it's
Does it
like,
change?
it's gonna change maybe pennies for somebody from moving from where they are to the same step on the new scale. It might be pennies.
It's not substantial.
It's not substantial.
And you get to see it before that, so you get a chance to.
No, I think we already approved it on the budget.
Well, that's,
Right, but
Yeah,
you'd
but-
like to see it in detail to make sure that
But you
it's
wanna see
not
it
Yeah, because I mean, I
benefiting
think
people.
if it's
to a
gonna
huge-
benefit someone, 1%, 2%, and then on top of that 2%, then
It won't be that
we
much.
gotta, I mean.
That's not going to be happening, but we can walk through it in detail.
I really am, I appreciate your concern on that, though.
I just wanted to make it be fair.
It's minute, I know, but I appreciate it.
all right,
yeah.
okay.
My turn?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a minute of silence, 30 seconds before we have Supervisor McLeod step in. Oh, he's not.
I take a strong exception to the statement I just heard that everybody deserves a pay raise every year. Not even close. Someone who managed to not get fired for the year does not deserve a pay increase equal to the person sitting next to them that's doing their job well and has been doing their job well for a long time. In addition, the person in the next desk over comes in early, works late, pulls the extra weight, goes the extra mile, provides excellent customer service. Why would they deserve the same pay raise as somebody who managed not to get fired this year? That makes no sense at all. That's not the way the real world works. I can tell you I was strongly in favor of option number 2, because at least that way, some people who worked harder than the person sitting next to them was being compensated for it. After discussions with staff, I understand the reason for waiting. I also will support option 1. But I think going forward, our policy should be really tied closely to a pay for performance. That's the way the real world works. It's been many, many years since I gave an employee a raise. I have a lot of employees who earned raises, and they got them. So no one deserves a raise just because they managed to sit in a seat for a year. So,
all right.
I like the direction we're going. This has been long, and
it's been coming, but
you know, some of the drum I've been banging for many years. I'm glad that we're finally getting there. I appreciate that.
Before Supervisor Pancrase, you say anything, and I know you will, but before you do that, let's just say that to me, the fact that we're discussing what size of a salary increase we're given and how we're given it, it's just a change of pace from the last, years before, where we didn't have anything to give to anyone other than employment. And if somebody out there is not keeping up with the work and it's not, being a good, you fire them in the private sector.
That's right.
You don't give them a raise, you let them go. So I also like the fact that we're moving towards a place where we will reward our best employees. Those ones that are not keeping up should be let go. They'd probably be better off someplace else. But the ones that, put up the work and do, the ones that meet expectations deserve a raise. If nothing else, because in some ways we're competing with, not necessarily the private sector. I don't think people in the private sector necessarily come to work in the public sector for the same reasons they are in the private sector. It's a little different. I've heard you many times mention the fact that people here come a lot for the benefits. There's a lot more benefits than in the private sector. The insurance, the health insurance, those things that matter to some people are here. So we don't reward employees simply with the salary increase. We reward employees with a better place to work and, so and so and so forth. So I still do believe that at some particular point in time, we do have to acknowledge that there are people who exceed that, and they need to be rewarded, and they need to be nurtured so that they can continue to do so. So I like where we're going. It's just that I think we tried to get there too fast, and we made it too complicated, and we made it too difficult to actually handle that within the context of this budget year. So I agree with that. Now, Lynn, Supervisor Pancrase.
Okay, I agree with you that we have in place, we have job descriptions. In place, we have supervisors and directors. In place, we have where you're on probation, where you're a 6 months or a year that you have to prove yourself to become a good employee. We have things in place to eliminate those people who are not doing their job. And that's what supervisors do. And I've gotten calls from those employees that are being let go for one reason or another because they weren't pulling their weight, because they didn't meet the expectations of the supervisors, because they didn't meet the expectations of the job description but that's what we already have in place so that our employees that do work for the county are the best at doing their job. And if they're doing their job to the best, they should be rewarded for that, if we have the funds to be able to do that. Do I think that there are some that go above and beyond what is expected of them? Yes. And if we have additional funds, should those people be rewarded with an additional %? If we can maintain it, yes. But all the employees that work for our county are pulling their weight, or the supervisors are using the process that is in place, that we have in place to find them another place of employment so that they can find some place where they can be successful, because they're not being successful with us. So that's the way I look at it. If there are additional funds, and if the process is objective, the subjective kind of, oh, you're my best friend, so in the department, so I'm going to give you an additional 1% raise. I'm not in favor of that at all.
It
No,
has to be something that has to be objective, that you can actually write down on paper and say, they did this, and this, and this, and this, and for that reason, they're getting an additional 1%. But it has to be over and above what everybody else is getting, not to replace where only some get it and some don't.
All right.
Does that make sense?
All
That's
right.
how I
We
feel.
have that process in place. Human Resources goes over the
I know.
evaluation.
Supervisor
Does
Porchek?
that make sense? Yes.
And, and I agree with Supervisor Pancrazy. You know, the process is already there. I mean, we do supervisors or department heads do evaluations, performance evaluations every year, huh? So that process is there. One of the things I think like Susan mentioned about the 12% or trying to determine who gets it and or
2%,
who-
12,
you
yeah,
know,
12.
up to
Oh, that's
within
12% of the money.
within
Yeah.
that, yeah, the department. But looking into, don't wait till the last month of the year to do the evaluation. I think they should do it in quarterly. Just because sometimes supervisors or department heads will look at an employee and say, you know, it's just because 1 week they did something wrong and not give them a good evaluation when the rest of the year they outperform anybody. So to eliminate those things, I think we need to, you know, they should be doing it quarterly and not go through the whole evaluation process, but at least make note of it and let the employee know about it, you know, how he's doing. That's something.
All right. You know, you got direction. You want a motion? Motion? A motion. Oh, all right.
I move that we do option 1.
All right. Is there a second? We can get
I'll
this.
second that, and that we continue to work towards
Some
the
sort of a pay for performance.
for
hybrid
next
system.
year.
All right. I think option 1
objective.
offers that.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
See, you didn't need that sympathy vote. See, you got it. All right. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Sympathy vote for
This
your
is very
lady.
good. Very good.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to go into the easy part of it, the planning and zoning agenda. Okay, here we go. A full legal description of property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. I'm going to open the expedited rezoning and public hearing. These items will be open as a group for a public hearing and acted upon one motion to adopt the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission, except for any item that is removed by a board member for separate consideration. That item will be discussed and acted upon separately, following action on expedited items. All right, does everybody understand the process? Because, you know, we haven't had many expedited rezoning and public hearings. And what it means is that we can take 3 items. Item, special use permit case number 1802, a special use permit case number 1803, and a special rezoning case number 1803 as one, and just have one public hearing for all of them, and then open up the discussion. I mean, there won't be much discussion. It would be an expedited process. Is there anyone in the board that wants to pull any of these items for a particular lengthy discussion on it? No? If not, then I'll open, I'm gonna open the public hearing, and then, you know, I should have let you talk about them first, you know, so that we can let the public, well, why don't you do that? So we can follow some sort of procedure. Why don't you describe them, or do I need to describe them? We haven't done them in a long time.
Either way, I can describe them, all of them, and
Well, for the record,
I can
do so.
read.
For the record, do so, and then we'll open the public hearing and then get it back to the board.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
All three
members of the
them at
board.
the same time. Yes.
I'm Member Barraza, Senior Planner. I'll be reading the 3 expedited cases we have here today. We have for item number 1, a special use permit case number 18-02, Ibrahim Osman of Osman Engineering, PLLC, agent for Majid S. Jajo, requests a special use permit per section 613.03, item A of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow automotive sales on a parcel 34,412 square feet in size, zone light industrial, assessor parcel number 666-28059, located at 2852 East Highway 95, Yuma County, Yuma, Arizona. It's located under the 65 decibel noise zone. Item number 2, Development Services Plan and Zoning Division, special use permit case number 1803, Mutu Kanagasabai requests a special use permit per section 604.03E of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow an accessory dwelling unit on a parcel 2.4 gross acres in size, zone suburban side build 2 acre minimum, assessor's parcel number 723-55005, located at 13561 South Tierra Bonita Boulevard in Yuma, Arizona, also within the 65 decibel noise zone. And then last item in the expedited is number 3, Development Services, Planning and Zoning Division again, zoning case number 1803, Jose Prieto, agent for James Ronald Adcox, requests the rezoning of a parcel approximately 1.81 gross acres in size from rural area 10 acre minimum to suburban side build 2 acre minimum. Assessor's parcel number 748-09007, located in the vicinity of the southeast corner of County 14 and 1/4 Street and Avenue 40 in Yuma, Arizona.
Thank you for that brief description. And let me remind everyone as I open the public hearing that in this particular case, everybody is ahead. So if you're going to say something, be careful. All right, I am opening up these items for the public. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address any of them, make any comments? If not, then I'll bring it back to the board for their decision. I'll entertain a motion to approve all 3 items as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
The motion and second to approve all 3 items of the expedited rezoning agenda as presented. Is there anybody here have any comment? No comment. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Now, the next item, it's a regular public hearing item, and there will be a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by a separate discussion and public hearing and action by the Board of Supervisors. The first item is Development Services Planning Zoning Division Minor Amendment Case Number 2018-MA-01 Cactus Kush Farm LLC, request to change the land use designation of a 5 acre portion of a parcel 62.63 gross acres in size from agricultural preservation to agricultural industrial. Assessors parcel number 140-22004, located in the southwest corner of the alignment of Avenue 74E and County 17.5 Street, North Hyder, Arizona. Before you begin, is there, on legal, can we open the 3 items and discuss them at the same time? And then make motions separately for each one of them?
Mr. Chairman, you can open up all 3, discuss them all 3, but you will have to take the
separate motions on each
motions in the order of presentation.
Right, see, that saves us a little bit of time because we don't have to open them up each time individually and go through the presentation. Development Service and Planning and Zoning Division, rezoning case number 1801, Cactus Kush Farms LLC, requests the rezoning of 5 acre portion of parcel 62.63 gross in size from rural area 40 acre minimum to light industrial 5 acre minimum, and assessor's parcel number 140-22-004, located on the southwest corner of the alignment of Avenue 74E and County 17.5 Street, North Hyder, Arizona. And 3, Development Services Planning and Zoning Division, a special use permit case number 1801, Cactus Kush Farms LLC, requests a special use permit for section 1613-.03H of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow medical marijuana cultivation on a 5 acre portion of a parcel 62.63 gross acres in size, zone light industrial 5 acre minimum, LI5, assessor's parcel number 140-22-004, located in the southwest corner of the alignment of Avenue 74E and County 17.5 Street, North Hyder, Arizona. And just to make things a little more clear, I guess, all 3 refer to the same application. It's just that it has to go through different parts of the process to get approved. The first one, because it requires a minor amendment, that's the one we'll deal with first. Then we'll deal with the rezoning case and then the special use permit, depending on whether those other ones get approved first. Because if one of them doesn't get approved, then the process changes. Correct?
Right.
All right, so let's get to the presentation. There's a speaker card. Bob Slonson, is he here? No, wait a minute, wait. Whenever we open the public hearing, then you can come up and talk. I just didn't know which one you wanted to address, okay? So I'll call you up, or you can come up during the public hearing part of the process, Mr. Slonson. You write like a doctor. Yeah. I don't know if you're gonna.
That's
You know,
very
I
nice.
can barely. Well, you know, it's nice. I wish
that
people
Coast
talk to
Guard
me
in it.
like, you know, you write like a doctor.
It's that Coast Guard in
Yeah.
being where we're
Write
at.
like
so
a
he just kinda
doctor, so
bends
try to
it.
figure out what, you know, Bib. I was thinking Bib, Bob. Okay, so we'll call you up in a minute, sir. Okay, go ahead and start it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fernando Villegas, Senior Planner, presenting the minor amendment case 2018 MA01. The first case is the request to change the land use designation of a 5-acre portion of a parcel 62.63 acres in size from agricultural rural preservation to agriculture industrial. The applicant intent is to rezone 5 acres from RA 40 to light industrial 5 to establish the medical marijuana cultivation site. A minor amendment to change the land use designation is necessary to allow the rezoning. The subject property is located in the Dayland East County planning area of the Yuma County Comprehensive Plan on the southwest corner of the alignment of Avenue 74E and County 17.5 Street North in Hyder. All surrounding parcels have the same land use designation. The requested agriculture industrial land use designation, if approved, will be a new land use designation in the area. Next, we have an aerial view of the parcel. Shows the proposed location and the adjacent parcels.
Middle of nowhere.
The next slide shows existing conditions of the subject property. 3 building permits have been issued to the subject property: an exempt storage shed in 2007, a manufactured home installation permit in 2008, and a septic permit in 2008. Staff received no comments in favor or in opposition. However, the applicant submitted 17 letters in support, and we received 1 letter from Joe Worley, Yuma County Assessor, stating that cultivation sites are not considered to be agricultural in use.
Mr. Worley likes to.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of this request. And Mr. Chairman, this concludes the minor amendment presentation. Do you want me to continue with the rezoning?
No, what we'll do is take one at a time, because if one doesn't go through, then we don't really need the presentation on the other ones.
Okay, thank you.
So let's take this one first. I'm gonna open up the public hearing on the minor amendment, which is the first step on the way, okay? So the minor amendment, I now hereby open it to the public. Anyone in the public that wants to speak for or against this now, step forward. And if you're the applicant, identify yourself as such.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. For the record, I'm Peter Valenzuela from the Genesis Group Public Affairs on behalf of the applicant, Cactus Kush Farms, LLC. What we want to go ahead and do is start with a video that we have. That's that we actually had some volume for it as well, but there's none now, I guess, from the county.
So, steady use of a drone.
Right. But we use the drone to go ahead and take a look at the area that's going to be developed. That's going to be developed for the grow facility.
Is that the Doobie Brothers in the background? It's applicable.
Yeah, it's a nice video. The volume didn't come on, but yes, it shows right there. That's going to be the area right there. The 2 buildings we'll be discussing in the little area to be medical marijuana grow facility. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, real good.
I like
Again, okay, the client, the applicant is Cactus Kush Farms here in Yuma, and we're happy to be here right now to make 3 different requests as discussed. Well, as per Chairman Reyes, we'll go ahead and take one at a time, and I believe the minor amendment case is the major case that that the other 2 requests will fall under their umbrella.
Yeah, right.
So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and speak in detail to kind of all 3, and
it will apply to all 3.
Yes.
It will apply to the application in general.
Exactly.
Right.
The 3 requests is, number 1 is a minor amendment case. to go ahead and request a change from land use designation of a 5-acre portion of a parcel that's about 62 acres gross, from agricultural rural preservation to agricultural industrial A1. It's located on the southwest corner of alignment of Avenue 74E and the county 7.5 Street North, Hyder, Arizona. The second request is a rezoning case. We request that the rezoning of a 5-acre portion of the 62 acres in size from rural 40-acre RA40 to light industrial 5-acre minimum LI5. And the last is a special use permit for Cactus Kush Farms, requesting a special use permit that would allow the applicant to have the special use permit for the medical marijuana cultivation center.
Okay.
Okay. The owner and developer of this project, Cactus Kush Farms LLC, proposes to develop a 5-acre parcel in Hyder, Arizona as a state licensed cannabis cultivation site. And this project will meet all the requirements of an approved medical marijuana cultivation site in accordance with the state of Arizona and DHS, Arizona Department of Health Services. The site will serve as a wholesaler to more than 130 licensed medical marijuana dispensaries currently located throughout the state of Arizona. The applicant will be one of 30 licensed cultivation sites in the state. All product orders will be delivered to state approved licensed dispensaries, and there will be no retail sales of medical marijuana from this location. The owner proposes to construct about just under 13,000 square foot pre-engineered metal building to be used for the cultivation. It'll have a commercial kitchen that'll be used on site and an office trailer brought in for offices and restrooms and employee break room. The plans are to add on 2 additional buildings for continued growth, which would make it about 40,000 square feet when it's done of 3 different buildings. Security, the site will be secured by an 8-foot fence with a locked gate and monitored extensively by video security as required by DHS. All finished product will be stored and secured and locked in a safe on-site location.
Is it a 6-foot or an 8-foot?
8-foot fence.
It says 6 in there. On our thing up here, it says 6.
We found out from the state it just needed to be 6.
Okay.
We thought it was 8
8.
originally.
Okay.
Okay, real
The
good.
requirement is 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, it will comply with county regulations. The site will be designated to provide safe and convenient access to and from the public roadway system. It'll follow the building setbacks according to code. The height, elevation, and appearance of the new building will be compatible with the general character of the surrounding area. And domestic water and sanitary sewer will be provided by the means of a private well and a septic system. Key points. It's going to provide an excellent employment opportunity here for us residents of Yuma County. They'll employ 15 to 20 full-time employees. They'll ramp up to 50 full-time employees once it's up and running and suitable for the other 3, or for all 3 sites, or all 3 buildings, I'm sorry. As soon as the project built out, future operations, and it will start at $15 per hour year-round. The site will have a medical marijuana kitchen. It'll produce a full line of products that are infused with medical marijuana or cannabis. These include edibles, lotions, pet treats, and vapor cartridges. Arizona statistics. There are currently 130 licensed dispensaries in Arizona and 30 cultivations. All product produced here must stay in the state of Arizona. Border Patrol. The location is located east of the Border Patrol checkpoint along Interstate 8. This site was intentionally chosen because of the checkpoint, as Border Patrol could confiscate any product that was moving through their checkpoint.
More than we wanted to know, but okay.
Yes.
Until the federal government, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So nobody in Yuma can use it?
It won't be sold in Yuma.
It won't be sold in Yuma?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. It
Just as long as it
can be,
doesn't
but
go
right
to-
now there's only 1 dispensary
Mm-hmm.
in Yuma, so more than likely it's going to be going to Maricopa County,
Okay.
where they have the majority of the dispensaries. Pioneer status. We understand that the applicant is the first applicant. I'm sorry. We understand that the client is the first applicant for a cannabis cultivation in Yuma County, and we believe that location of Hyder is the best place for this cultivation in Yuma County. And as discussed earlier, the applicant has secured local support. For the record, we have 18 letters of support secured for all 3 applications.
Right.
Okay, the site plan, this building here, or I'm sorry, this proposed darker outline here would be the first 12,600 square foot building. It'll have a 15-foot high ceiling at its peak as well. And it will have, this here is the kitchen area, and this building here is the office. Okay, this is the building model here. Again, it'll be 12,600 square feet, and the height at its peak is 15 feet. Reference points. The property is less than 4 miles from the Maricopa line. That's the furthest eastern point in Yuma County. Secondly, the product will be distributed in other counties, primarily Maricopa County. And we don't anticipate wholesaling to Yuma County at this time. It has a sustainable business model, certified 100% organic. And again, it has a nice employment opportunities here where employment is scarce. We'll ramp up to 50 full-time employees. Start with 20 to begin with. And they'll be investing $1.4 million state-of-the-art facility, hydroponic indoor grow, so there's no soil used, and it uses lights and AC under roof. Lastly, the industry is committed to helping a variety of causes. Cactus Kush Farms plans on contributing to a number of nonprofit entities and charities locally. So they want to give back to the local community, especially looking at youth sports programs, women's shelter, and at the Crossroads mission. And that's the end of our presentation.
That's good. All right. Anybody else? Any questions from the applicants? Sorry. No? No? Thank you very much. Anybody else from the audience that wants to address the board on this particular issue? No? Bob, you're ahead? Yeah, come up.
Thank you for the opportunity. My wife and I and our 2 daughters moved, I'm sorry,
Before
Bob
you start.
Swanson.
That's right, Bob Swanson.
9575 South
Good.
Avenue 31E in Welton, Arizona. My wife and our 2 daughters moved to Dateland in 1970. I have been associated with the school in Dateland for 48 years. When I came there, we had 111 students. In the 80s and the 90s, we were up to 237 students. Now we have 95 students, half of them coming from the Tacna area. We have lost Hyder Ranches. We lost White Wing Ranch. We lost the grapes at Red Mountain Farming. We have been devastated by the lack of opportunity and jobs for people in the area. We have a great little school. We have people coming 30, 40 miles to attend our school, even some from Welton, okay? But we don't have jobs. This is the first opportunity that we've had since the construction of the solar plant at White Wing Ranch to have some jobs that would be important for the people of our community. Planning and zoning has told me that they've had only letters of support, no negative letters as far as I know. The school has no objections with this. I think that I am asking you, okay, as a community member and a school, I don't know all these things that you're talking about here, the rules and the regulations and everything, but I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for Hyder area, for the Dateland area, and for Yuma County. We used to have 3 markets out in that area. one in Aztec, one in Dayton, and one in Hyder, and now we have done. We had a hardware store in Dayton, don't have that anymore. But we exist, and we do well. We've been in an A school for the last 6 years. State of Arizona told us that we have the poorest average salary in the state of Arizona of an A school. Okay, average salary, they told us, was about $16,000 a year. So this is a wonderful opportunity. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of the community and on behalf of the school district. So thank you for the time.
All right, so you are in support of the project?
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
So
that's the only thing you didn't
that's
say.
right. I'm sorry.
We gather that from the speech, but you know, just in case for
we
the
need
record.
jobs, and we think this is a wonderful opportunity.
Right. Thank you. All right, that takes care, unless somebody else in the public wants to address the board, that takes care of the public hearing. I'm returning it back to the board for their decision. I'll entertain a motion to in favor or against the minor amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion, we approve the amendment.
Is there a second?
Presented.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the amendment as per Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Anybody in the board like to speak at all?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Why was staff opposed to this and good with everything else? Was it just out of character?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, our recommendation is based on our comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And our comprehensive plan says that the proposed land use designation is not compatible with the existing land use designation. That's one of the reasons.
Because of the LI?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
They do it because of what they have in front of them.
Yeah.
They can't argue against their own.
Yeah.
ducks. All right, you want to say something?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, when you adopted the special use for marijuana dispensaries, at that time, the law was that a growth facility in 5 acres or more would have been exempt from zoning. So this would have been allowed as a matter of right. The state legislature made a change and took marijuana growth facilities outside of the ag exempt. They did that after the voter approved. I'm not sure if that change was actually legal or not. It would take somebody to actually fight that in a court, but it's because of that change in state statute that now they have to
go through the process,
go through a process and make it industrial to be able to move forward and not just proceed under ag. So.
Got it. All right, you have an answer for that. Okay, any others?
I'd like to make one comment, Mr. Chairman, just for all three. I know this area very, very well, and it is a very poor area. And I like the fact that once it gets fully established, we're talking 50 jobs for the people out there, and $15 is a very high paying job for the people in the Hyder area. So hopefully this will stimulate growth out there a little bit and kind of bring it back to life, because over the years it has just kind of faded away. And that used to be a very, very prominent area as far as growing. So hopefully this is a chance for it to turn around.
Okay, but that part about it's a high paying job, just disregard that. You know, you should pay more. All right, any other questions? No questions?
Mr.
Comment.
Chairman, I'm pleased that they're going to be able, they'll meet all the state requirements, which is, one is the fingerprinting and the identification of the employees, so that we know that those people that will be employed by them will be those who are quality people, yeah, quality employees. And so I'm pleased with that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just to clarify, DHS heavily regulates this industry, so it'll be okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Okay, so most of those comments, if not all those comments, were in favor. So I gather that we're going to have a vote in favor. So all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the second part. In this particular case, you have already read it. So what I'm going to do is open up to the public hearing process. And is there anyone here in the public that wants to address the board? And again, with something we haven't heard yet? If not, then I'll take it back to the board for their decision. Oh, you want to say something, Mr. Sloan? Remember, you got to come up here.
I want to wait till this is done, and I just want, well, I want to thank you for talking about the Dayton roads.
Oh,
for our
right.
schools.
All right, good.
Okay.
All right, so public hearing, nobody in the public wants to address the board. I'm going to close the public hearing portion of it and go to the rezoning case, which will be rezoning case number 1801. I'll entertain a motion for approval or disapproval.
So moved.
Second?
Been motion and second to approve rezoning case number 1801 as per recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any discussion on the item? There is no discussion on the item. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I'll move on to item 3, which is special use permit case number 1801, which has already been read. I am going to open this up to the public hearing process. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address the board on this particular issue? If none, I'll close the public hearing and return it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion on special use permit case number 1801.
So moved. Approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve special use permit case number 1801. As per recommendation of Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. Any discussion on the item? No discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. That takes care of those 3. Thank you very much for all of you who waited so patiently to have your cases heard. Next time, we'll take more time. All right, thank you very much. Oh, and Bob, thank you for your comments. They're appreciated. All right, we'll take a breather here, just relax. It's a marijuana case, so we gotta take it easy. No, take it easy. All right, so we next go into item number 4, Development Planning and Zoning Division, rezoning case number 1805. Adrian Vega, agent for FC General Contractor LLC, requests the rezoning of a parcel 14,100 square feet in size from manufactured home subdivision, 10,000 square feet minimum, to manufactured home subdivision, 6,000 square foot minimum. Assessors parcel number 728-04057, located at 12754 East 42nd Street, Yuma, Arizona. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, present the rezoning case number 1805. The intent of the applicant is to split the property into 2 new lots. This is the zoning map vicinity showing the subject property highlighted in crosshatch at the center. Parcel 57 is accessed on the south via 42nd Street and on the west by Powell Avenue. Both are primitive roads. All the properties highlighted are a mixture of site-built and manufactured homes with different zonings, MHS from 4.5, 10, and 20. Parcel 49 further southwest is the only vacant parcel within the zoning notification area. Parcel 36, it's the location of religious facilities, zone MHS 20. This is Exhibit A, site plan provided by the applicant, how they intend to split the properties into Parcel A and Parcel B in a west and east fashion. This is an aerial view showing the subject property, secure condition of the neighborhood. This is a view looking northeast of the subject property from the intersection of Powell Avenue and 42nd. Again, the best view is the northeast view. You can see the condition of the existing roads. These roads get twice a year maintenance with chloride. Staff received 1 phone call in support of this request and 3 letters in opposition from the owners of 5 parcels, mainly just traffic increase and probably the washboard condition of the road. That was the only comments I received from them. The Planning Commission recommends approval of rezoning case number 1805, subject to the following performance conditions. Within 60 days of approval by the board, the owners or agents shall provide the following: an ARS 12-1134 waiver, a recorded range and restricted airspace disclosure statement, a recorded infrastructure disclosure statement, a recorded schedule for development disclosure statement, and the following schedule for development. Within 1 year of the board's approval, the property shall be split in accordance with the attached site plan labeled as Exhibit A by means of a land division permit in accordance with Section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. Mr. Chairman, this concludes this presentation, and the agent is present.
All right. Any questions from Mr. Rubio? If not, Mr. Rubio. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone here in the public that wants to address the board on this particular issue? No? No one? No? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board here for their discussion.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Javier, regarding the assessor's letter, who deals with that? Is that something the board needs to do, or do you do that on a staff level?
The
The assessor's letter?
assessor's letter?
Yeah.
What is, I'm sorry, can you please clarify the, where
I'll
do
verify what this is.
Mr. Worley commented on the legal description for the property.
Oh, yeah, that will be development services. We will make sure the legal instructions are correct and everything at the time of the land division.
Okay, so you'll take care of that in-house.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, Maggie?
Yes,
you wanna say
Mr.
something?
Chairman, one of the conditions that you saw on this case, and I think it's one of the first cases or that has that condition, is the recordation or recording of a schedule for development disclosure statement. And the purpose of that is if the property owner, the current owner fails to comply with the schedule for development, that disclosure statement will be brought up whenever somebody does a future property owner or a future buyer does a title search on the property to put them on notice that the property was approved subject to a schedule for development.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Lisa's supervisor report is immense. All right. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll turn it back to the board. Is there a motion to approve or disapprove this rezoning case?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning case number 1805 as was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any discussion on the item? No more discussions or no discussion on the item? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Then we go to the Development Services Planning and Zoning Division rezoning case 1804. B&A Vega, agent for Savera Holdings LLC, request for rezoning of a parcel 10 gross acres in size from rural area 10-acre minimum to suburban site build 2-acre minimum. Assessors parcel number 755-33-006 and 007 located south of County 17th Street and Avenue A in Somerton, Arizona.
Mr. Chairman, for this case, the applicant wasn't able to attend, so they requested to continue the meeting to the second meeting in July. My understanding is that the first meeting in July is being canceled, but I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I think so.
they requested this to be continued since
Very
they're
patriot of us.
in opposition to one of the conditions, I think.
Okay, so they want more time to deal with one of the conditions to make
Yes.
sure? Okay.
Yes.
Do I need a motion to continue or
You
do
need to
we
open
just
it to-
simply not take action?
You need to open it to the.
Yeah,
public
that's
and
right. We
take
need to open the hearing and then continue it to a later date. All right, so can you, okay, we're not, there's no sense on going through the presentation and stuff. I'm just gonna open up the public hearing to make sure that people show up to say something about this. They have an opportunity, and then I'll bring it back to the board for a motion to continue to an uncertain date. I'm opening up item number 5, rezoning case number 1804 for the public. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address the board in this particular item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for their motion to continue. Do we have to table it or continue it?
Continue to a specific meeting.
Yeah, but if we continue, we need to give a specific date, right? Okay, so July 16 would be the specific date, the second meeting in July. Okay, I'll entertain a motion from the board to continue this item to the July 16th scheduled board meeting, July 16, 2018.
Move to continue to the meeting of July 16, 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to continue item number 5, rezoning case 1804 to a date certain of July 16, 2018. Any comments on this? No? All those in favor of the continuance, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And we got that through the Planning and Zoning Commission. The next item is events calendar, current events. And in this particular item,
I just have a question.
Questions for staff, development
There
staff.
or, well, Maggie, I'm just surprised we didn't have any of the reversion hearings.
There's none left.
I don't think we've gone through them all, have we?
Mr. Chairman, I think there's 5 or 6 scheduled for the June 18th meeting. And then there's also going to be another 3 for the second meeting in July.
Oh, yeah, you should have asked. We opened
Thank
it. Okay, now you know.
And those will be the last of the old cases.
The new cases will be coming up later. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so,
No, it's today.
We have alternatives to this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was not aware that that item was on today's agenda. I thought it was on the July 18th meeting.
what? I didn't see anything.
I'm sorry.
The work session.
Oh,
June
oh,
18th.
the overview of the alternatives to existing and new sketch for development planning cases. We're not having that today, right?
Mr. Chairman, I would rather that we continue that to the next meeting.
All right, so what I'm going to do, this was a work session anyway, but, so, you know, we can get to it and then continue it to a later date, the same way we did with the case that we previously continued, okay? All right, okay, I'm going to do that, right? I'm gonna skip, did I already mention the event calendar and current events?
Yes.
I started to, right? Then I stopped because some member of the board, I was continuously interrupting all the time. But, you know, I'm going to finish this up
You should quit
and then
doing
go
that,
back.
Darren.
I'm trying. Just keep up with that.
07. The only, board members and county administrators will report on and may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county, may present a brief summary of current events, and may update the schedule for future board of supervisor meetings. Appropriate, no legal action will be taken pursuant to Arizona revised statutes. Supervisor Pancrase, grace us with your long list of meetings and stuff.
I attended the emergency management practice that they had for the earthquake in California.
There was an earthquake in California? I was over here.
No. Yeah,
There you go.
okay.
A big one.
I attended the Arizona Historical Society's annual meeting. I went to the open house out at Public Works for Public Works Appreciation Week. I spoke at the EOC Charter High School graduation, and it was amazing. On Memorial Day, I attended 2 Memorial Day ceremonies, the Ocean to Ocean Bridge, where they drop reefs off, and the one at Desert Lawn Memorial, in memory of our fallen military folks. Thank you. And they were both very, very well attended, as well as very memorable. I spoke at 4th Avenue Junior High's 8th grade graduation, and I attended my YMPO meeting.
Okay, Supervisor McLeod.
I attended a meeting regarding Highway 95 with Representative Dunn, Gary Knight. You know, most of you probably know Gary Knight is now on the State Transportation Board. And so Representative Dunn wanted to make sure that we met and we're all on the same page with the character of the 95 improvement. There was some question as to whether it would be limited access or not. So we got all that under control and we're all on the same page, I think. Attended the Public Works open house, and I thank them for showing us the very nice equipment that they have and learned a lot about it. You'd be surprised at how complex a water truck is. Seems like a really simple thing, you know, put in some water and spray out some nozzles, but more to it than that. Attended the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center tabletop that Supervisor Pancrase mentioned. And, you know, that really showed you the value of those things, because we had questions come up that hadn't been thought about before. And so that's why you run those exercises, you learn from them. And I understand from others, I think Gil found something out for his division in finance. So those are definitely worthwhile operations. Also attended the direct funeral for Director Brooks, and also the Memorial Day memoriam at the Yuma Cemetery. It was very well attended.
It was.
Supervisor Simmons?
Let's see, attended an event with Tim Dunn, just kind of a get together. Welton School graduation where I presented awards, Mohawk School graduation where I presented awards. attended the Antelopes Awards presentation and handed out some scholarships as well as their graduation. Dayton School Awards as well, handed out awards there. Attended the Public Works open house as well, which like Supervisor McLeod was saying, some of that equipment is almost like sitting in a jet fighter anymore, just the way everything's set up. And had a meeting with the all the police, chiefs of police and schools, most of the school superintendents referenced the upcoming school safety bill. Those meetings with Tim Dunn to try to get him all on the same page, you know, to understand kind of what's going on as far as that bill and what our thoughts are on it.
Supervisor Portia?
I also attended the Public Works open house, and they actually had pretty good lunch there, so that was good. That's it.
All right. Susan and I attended the Greater Yuma Port Authority meeting in San Luis. And, you know, Greater Yuma Port Authority, we had an executive director for like a month or two. He is now resigned, so now we're back to it. But the good news is that now Susan is a full-blown appointed member of that commission. So some of these things will improve, I hope. Russ Jones, he had a facility opening out at the industrial park, or what we call the industrial park. And the upcoming meeting of the Arizona-Mexico Commission, it's happening, I think, next week, sometime late next week. Some of us are going. I don't know which of us are going, but I know I'm going, and I think Susan is also going. Which brings forth the question that we need to deal with a little further down the road, which is the membership to the Board of Trade Alliance, of which we've been invited to be a member of. And I think in some ways that needs to be discussed in the context of how involved are we going to be in those issues of economic development. And I think that that's a discussion that we need to have as a full board, because becoming a member of the Board of Trade Alliance implies a lot more than just simply being members. It implies traveling. It implies, you know, really taking an active role in it. And so, as I told Russ Jones, who was a member, you know, this will require for us to really reach for another level of involvement, and that requires, again, discussion. Yeah, funds, because it isn't just going to be the fee to become a member. It's going to be the travel and you know, the time to actually be able to use. All right, so it's getting disrupting because my computer's telling me something's going on that it isn't supposed to. Okay, so that is it. Anybody has any other announcements to make? Susan, if we don't have any announcements, those people who are going to Tennessee need to start getting organized, right?
Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. In July, we are, several of us will be attending the National Association of Counties annual conference. I was able to attend the EOC statewide emergency exercise, and the policy group, we had a good discussion about the succession, the line of succession for board members if someone's out of town or unavailable to act for a declaration of emergency, how that would work. So I think that was a really good piece of information that we're going to be following up on. Public Works open house was very good, and I had to leave. I couldn't have lunch there because I went to the to attend the Aztec High School graduation, and that's always very moving because, you know, those kids have faced a lot of barriers and challenges to get to where they are, and it's just really exciting and rewarding to hear their comments about their own graduation and what's ahead for them in the future. That was enjoyable. And the YMPO meeting, and thank you for signing the letters of support for Highway 95 as it goes. Those letters will go to the State Transportation Board. We'll see what happens there. Right now, it's not included in the 5-year plan. I don't know if this push will be enough to get it there, but at least it is on their radar screen for to realize how important that is to Yuma County and the entire western part of the state.
All right. Okay, we do have a...
Mr. Chair, I just want to say, next meeting, I'm not going to be here, but I know the chair we talked to Desiree about, so I can be able to call in, and at least being here for the budget.
I didn't see his request. All right.
Yeah,
So we're
gonna
setting
give
it
you
up,
a break
right?
no matter what.
Almost the second meeting of July 16 meeting.
I am going to start establishing a policy that this has to be told 3 months in advance. You know, if anybody's gonna miss a meeting, otherwise, they're not gonna get approved.
Before you adjourn, we need to act on the work session item?
Yes, I will. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, Supervisor McCall and I still have our computers up, right? Okay, we have one last item, and that is work session, discussion and action item. The board was supposed to discuss and may take action on the following items as appropriate: development services, planning and zoning, overview of alternatives to existing and new sketches for development and planning cases. We didn't have any official action. It was not required. So what we'll do is have a motion to continue to another date. I guess the same date as the other one? June, I mean, no.
Actually, Mr. Chairman,
That was July 16th, wasn't it?
June.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
we
you
were-
don't need to take any action. You're,
There was no action required, so I guess
Right.
you can reschedule
it can just be
it
placed
again.
on the next agenda.
Yeah. All right, so we don't need to take any action. It was supposed to be action as needed, so,
Right.
I was looking forward to it. I'm heartbroken.
yeah, me too. The complaint department is over there to the right as you go in. You need to go upstairs first, though. Anyway, having taken care of that particular thorny issue of the work session that didn't happen, I'll say that the meeting, there have been no further business to attend to. This meeting is done. Adjourned. Well,